So most of us have a problem with the fact that Nintendo is charging money for Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which is a little piece of software that gives users a very kind of a deep dive little like museum tour kind of thing of the Switch 2 and all of its features and things, and gives a bunch of mini games showing off all of its new stuff, Joy-Con stuff. It really does seem to be the kind of thing that should just come preloaded on every Switch 2. I think most of us are in agreement there. When they were first showing it off, I was like, hey, that's a cool idea. And then they said it would be paid software, and it was like, what? And I'm like, I don't... a few bucks? I might pay a few bucks for it or whatever. And then they announced that at least here in the US, $10. $10. And I certainly don't think that that's it's a good idea to charge that much. Really, just charging any amount whatsoever is going to just like even if it was a couple dollars, so dramatically reduce the number of people who actually end up playing it. So I do think it's a bad idea, but there's someone else. There's someone else with a little bit more cred than this guy, and he also thinks it's a bad idea. Reggie himself kind of chimed in on social media. He didn't say anything directly or specifically. He did not mention the game at all. All he did was he clipped out some bits from an old IGN article that he did where he tells the stories about how multiple times throughout his time at Nintendo, he basically had to like fight them to pack games in, at least here in North America. The first case was Wii Sports being packed in with the system. That was Reggie. That was Reggie. Nintendo Japan did not want to do it. It was like a big thing, and he was like, you absolutely have to. And ultimately, he was right. Like, the Wii became the craze that it was because that software that's so perfectly showed it off and so immediately connected with people. Everybody knows what a baseball bat is and how to swing it or how to, throw a bowling ball. Like, everybody gets that. So like it ended up mattering so much. So basically this little social media thread, it's just 3 little clips. And one is the clip where he tells that story. Had to fight them tooth and nail to get Wii Sports packed in with Wiis. And then the next one is about how they needed to pack in a Wii remote with Wii Play, which was basically just a little mini game collection. And he fought to have it packed in there, which is funny because I always thought that was like kind of the point. I wouldn't have just bought the collection by itself. It's because it came with a remote. It was a good deal. And he cites this as another success, another case where he was correct because it ended up going on to be a very, very, very high selling product, which makes sense. And then in the final bit that he clips, he's just, basically just saying, like, these ended up being very highly selling things and they were a very big phenomenon where they were packed in, whereas in Japan, Wii Sports in particular was not as much of a phenomenon. That's not a fact that I can back up here. I'm going to trust Reggie on this one. I wasn't in Japan at the time, but obviously him bringing these stories back up again is him kind of without words, without directly addressing the welcome tour issue. He's basically giving his opinion that it is silly. It is silly to have a piece of software that kind of represents the hardware and to not include anything like that with the system. Situations like this are funny. I do have to wonder if him kind of tiptoeing around it, if that's like legally, is he not really allowed to like give really solid opinions about Nintendo and their decisions moving forward? Or is it just kind of like to be nice? You don't want to like leave the company and then be like bad-mouthing people and bad-mouthing these individual decisions. It might just kind of be like bad form, you know? For all I know, he's like still friends with these people. I'm not sure. That's beside the point, but I am very curious to know, like, what, you know, like, do they visit each other? Do they have dinner? It's even just funny hearing these stories, hearing about how he made Miyamoto, like himself, really, really mad by insisting that they pack this stuff in. It's really, really funny. But anyway, yeah, like, obviously he's got a point. It is a little bit different. I mean, okay, I'll just use this opportunity to kind of like give just a little bit more time to this topic. It is a little bit different because I would say that in this case, this software is not gonna blow anyone's minds, you know? Like, Wii Sports was basically necessary to like make that connection in people's heads, and like that it really did create a phenomenon. In this case, I don't think this little welcome tour thing is gonna sell anybody. We don't need to be sold. You know, people are already pretty excited about the Switch 2. Switch 1 was such a big phenomenon. I don't think anybody is gonna like go to their friend's house and they've got the Switch 2 and they play Welcome Tour and they play these little mini games using the mouse mode, and it like, wow, just a light bulb comes on, it just like clicks and suddenly they need a Switch 2, you know? It really is just showing off the little like motion features that are just, it's kind of whatever at this point, you know? And then of course like the little tour of the Switch 2 itself, all that kind of information. It's not gonna sell anyone. So to me, I would say it's not really the same thing because they're not really missing out on an opportunity by not giving us this software. And I know that kind of sounds backwards when I say something like, I think it's a bad idea. That kind of suggests that from Nintendo's perspective, that would be bad for them. Honestly though, I don't. For me, this is more kind of like the principle of the thing. This is a piece of software designed to welcome people to the system and to show off the system to them, to, I don't know, potentially even enrich their experience with the system. It really is like going to a theme park or going to anything, and there's like the information desk. You don't charge money for the information that's going to help people enjoy it. You know, you don't go to the zoo and they charge you for a map. And they're like, yeah, but we made the map. We had to have someone design it and we had to print it. Like, yeah, I get that. And you know, it is true. Like Bill Trinan has talked about this, and he, you know, or Nate Bildorf, or probably both of them talk about, like, we think it's a good piece of software and we don't think $10 is an exorbitant price because we had to put effort into it. And there are like some real little mini games in there. It's pretty good. There's some stuff to do. And it's like, you're not wrong. You're really not wrong. And it is true. The entire point of something like this is to make money. If you spent money creating this game, then I guess you like the idea of making money on it. And it's like, I'm not even arguing the idea that you might get that much enjoyment, content, playtime out of it. $10 really isn't a lot. For me, it really is just because of what the software represents. It's called Welcome Tour. Welcome to the Switch. It's kind of the message that they're giving, you know, and especially in light of everything else, the higher price of the console, the higher price of the games. We're already kind of freaked out about how much we're gonna be paying for all this stuff. So telling us that you're taking your cute little like game that feels, it feels like a pack-in game. It feels like the kind of game they made specifically just to show off the Switch to all of the people. And of course, there are all of the comparisons with Astro's Playroom, how it is possible to create a piece of software that even feels like a game, and it shows off the hardware, and like it's perfect as a pack-in title. It's something that you do for your audience just to be nice, you know? It's nice to be nice. We're not really super fussed that this is $10 because we want it really bad. I really don't care that much. It's just the fact that it would have been such a perfect pack-in, and we're freaked out about all these prices, and you still just couldn't. You know, it would have been nice to throw us a little tiny bone, a little breadcrumb. hey, we know you're gonna have to pay $80 for Mario Kart, but like, here's something, you know? Here's a little something so that if you get a Switch 2 on day one, even if you don't have the money for all these other $80 games or whatever yet, at least you got this little thing. At least you could play these little mini games. It would just be too perfect. And it's funny because a lot of this, really a lot of this does come down to that title, I think. I'm really curious to know how we would have responded if it was called something different, because as some people are pointing out, the Japanese translation of the Japanese title is Exhibition of Nintendo Switch 2 Secrets. In Japan, it is being marketed as an exhibition of its secrets. And I don't know, it's a very small change, and yet at the same time, it feels like a little extra. You know, it feels like you're paying something to get a little bit extra. This is the deeper forbidden knowledge. And even just the word exhibition is very grand. It really kind of gives an impression that there's a whole lot to enjoy. And I don't know, we probably wouldn't be in too different of a situation, but I do think the words welcome tour, it's a welcome. You don't charge someone for a welcome. You simply welcome them. So yes, I do think it's a little silly. I think even just this one little thing would have gone a long way. You know, a little goes a long way in a situation like this, but Nintendo charging $10, which to them, they're like, no, that's cheap. That's much less than a regular game. Yeah, but nah, that's still just, it just kind of feels yucky. It was just kind of not the right time for it. And like whatever money they're going to make on it, and then that's the thing too. Like I said, so few people are going to buy this. Like so few people. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like very, 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 very few people, a very small percentage of the Switch 2 install base is going to actually buy this. And whatever like small amount of money they made from that, I don't know, maybe they'll pay for development of the game. Maybe, but like whatever they end up making is not worth just just that little like, man, you could have had something here. You had a chance to make us feel nice.